All right, folks, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, culminating a big college football weekend here. Of course, like, comment, and subscribe as we bring you the best analysis in the game over the Power Five and a little bit in the Group of Five. And, of course, we've got 2 games left, and they both focus in the ACC with Virginia Tech and Florida State getting it on in an ACC game Monday night. But first, we've got a much-anticipated non-conference game with LSU and Miami. We bring in Kim Underwood from State of the U, always doing the big job for us in taking care of Miami analysis. And this is the best route I can go to set us up for the big game. So Cam is in Dallas. And so, Cam, first and foremost, with everything going on, with everything you're focused on, with getting excited for the big game, I appreciate you jumping on here for a little discussion here.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me here. Obviously, you guys watching the video see a little bit of a different background at my friend's family home. So China cabinet behind me here and whatnot on the suburbs of Dallas. But yeah, it's a good time out here. My mom lives out here, so was able to do some family time for a couple of days and then transition over to, running the website kind of stuff and getting ready for the game. So it's a good time, and we're all just getting started after a late night last night, but going to be a late night and hopefully a good game today.
So why don't we address the situation at hand concerning the breaking news, then we'll get to the scene there in Dallas, and then we'll move on to the nuts and bolts of football on the field. N'Kosi Perry suspended. We saw that break sometime late afternoon to early evening, I believe, last night. So what details have you been able to gather about that?
Yeah, that was yesterday morning, actually, that the University of Miami announced that backup quarterback N'Kosi Perry was suspended for the opener. This is a disciplinary action precipitated by something that happened earlier in the spring, summer. And, they said that correction was offered, and Perry has been, he followed all the steps that he had to do to rectify, the situation and whatnot, or react to that appropriately. And that the suspension is only 1 game. So it's not, an indefinite or a multiple game or whatnot. It's, 1 game only, didn't make the trip out here to Texas, but will be a full participant in all the other games, unless something else happens. But this situation, Miami considers it closed at the end of this 1 game suspension. So, yeah, it's never a great thing. And actually, I've just been talking on Twitter with a couple other Canes fans and friends like, oh, yeah, Miami went the entire offseason with no suspensions, no incidents of any kind. And that was actually just like Wednesday or Thursday of this week. And then Saturday morning early, boom, suspension. So, this is, like I said, a thing that's been in the works for a while, or that has been known, at least to the University of Miami. They finally announced it yesterday. So, it's never great to have a player suspended. It's never great to have a quarterback suspended. And if you're looking at a narrative kind of an arc, we could potentially be looking at, maybe step 2 of the N'Kosi Perry transfers conversation. Didn't win the starting job this year, got suspended for the opener, maybe something else, doesn't play as much as he wants to. That narrative could be being created right now. We could be, walking down that path. I'm not hopeful for that. I hope that, this is a one-off kind of a situation and things don't go any further. And, N'Kosi Perry is, the backup quarterback, and he has a role on this team, and he sticks around for next year, with Cade Weldon and Jaron Williams, and is in a, wide open QB battle, not one that was kind of falsely open this year, because, Mark Richt wasn't having really an open competition, even though he said that. So for next year, there's no incumbent starter. N'Kosi Perry has all the athletic talent in the world. Hopefully he sticks around and, things get rectified. But we've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this for a long time, and we've seen these kind of things happen. So it would not surprise me if 8 months from now, I come back on here and we're talking about, N'Kosi Perry went elsewhere. And then this instance is one of the, the interior details to that story. So that is potentially possible. But again, I don't hope for that. So, hopefully whatever happened with N'Kosi Perry, and I'm not going to speculate on that, but, I just know that he was suspended for the opener. Whatever happened, is in the past, and hopefully he, finds the straight and narrow path, and, we move on from there. So, but he won't be here tonight for the opener against LSU. And I mean, probably wasn't going to have played in this game anyway, because Malik Rozier is going to be the starting quarterback, but, we'll see what happens from here.
So two questions follow up there. So you can't necessarily draw anything specific, of course, but can't draw anything from the wording of that statement because it started to sound like it was some kind of, even though the discipline had been handed out, so we're moving forward from there. It sounded like it wasn't like a boom, one-time incident on June 29th, N'Kosi Perry did X, therefore he's being suspended. It seemed like more of a situation.
I mean, if that's your read on it, then I understand. I'm going to take Miami at their word, and like, of course, there's rumors and conjecture, and people, oh, I was here at this thing, and I saw him here, and I did this, or I mean, there's all those kind of things. But I mean, it sometimes a bunch of nickels and dimes, it becomes a dollar. You know what I mean? So you do a couple little things, and then all of a sudden, cool, we're going to suspend you. Or it could be just one really big, bad thing or whatever. So, I mean, it could be either way, that it was a single event. Hey, we saw this, boom, we're going to justify or, suspend you based on that. Or it could have been, a lot of little things, and, you take an inch, and then you take two, and then you take a half foot, then you take a foot, then you take a mile. So, going along that path. So, either way, hopefully it would. Actually, I don't even really know if I want it to be one or the other. Kind of think that I would prefer the minor infractions because they wouldn't be that major. But how many of them would you have had to, eventually become suspended? So, but either way, N'Kosi Perry is not going to play in this game. He is suspended for that game. And hopefully, regardless of what precipitated that action, he's learned from it and can move forward in a positive manner.
Because, of course, you come from an academic background. I come from a management standpoint where you have situations where a person's a model student, model worker, and then all of a sudden they do X. They do one thing and it's egregious versus a lot of things kind of add up to not the best of performance or the best of, and when I talk performance here for a particular player, it's not on the field, it's performance, conduct, those things that kind of add up and kind of peck away at a reputation or a brand. And now we've come to a point where we're going to deal with the situation overall and this person's overall approach to this. So who knows what it is? Okay, in terms of impact on the field, did we have a set official depth chart to go by to see what the potential impact could be? God forbid something happened to Rozier.
Yeah, actually we do, which is kind of crazy because I didn't think that we were going to get one. But we did get a released depth chart this week. And N'Kosi Perry was the number 2 quarterback on that depth chart that was released. So, that now moves him off of the depth chart, and that moves up Cade Weldon, to the number 2 slot on the depth chart. So, if anything happens, then to Malik Rozier, and he has to come out of the game for whatever reason, then, we're going to be looking at him, Cade Weldon, that is, at quarterback. Actually, it was Cade Weldon or N'Kosi Perry, at the number 2 slot. So I guess before that, since again, Miami knew that they were suspending Perry, they kind of hedged a little bit on that depth chart. So yeah, Cade Weldon is going to be the backup. We had a nice little quick wrap up piece about, what it means with N'Kosi Perry out. But I mean, honestly, like I said on here before and many other places, this is Malik Rozier's team. Mark Richt is not going to pull him. Mark Richt is not going to bench him. So absent injury, knock on wood, that doesn't happen. Number 12 is going to be your quarterback. Now that does open the door for Cade Weldon, if the situation presents itself in this game to play. Jaron Williams, the true freshman from Georgia, also opens the door for him because now, he's the number 3 quarterback, not number 4. But those are all the scholarship quarterbacks that Miami has, without N'Kosi Perry, because there's only 4 in the room right now. And there's some walk-ons and things, but they weren't going to see the field anyway. Excuse me. So, that does, just move up the depth chart a little bit and, just does take away a talented athletic player, who can play obviously at a Miami level. Because he was a, 4-star recruit. I'm not saying that he's going to start or anything, but, he's not some, walk on who just all of a sudden, hits the field. Obviously there is the Baker Mayfield example, but he's definitely the aberration and not the rule. So, there aren't those guys walking around on anybody else's college campus as walk-on quarterbacks. Otherwise, they probably would have been recruited as high 4 stars and whatnot. So you do take away a talented player who has the athletic potential to be at Miami, obviously with Perry not being there. So, yeah, it's going to be the Malik Rozier show pretty much all the way through Cade Weldon or Jaron Williams on the in case. really. But yeah, like I said, I'm looking for number 12 to be the quarterback this year because Mark Richt wants him to be the quarterback this year. And I am not, again, y'all know that I'm not a big Malik Rozier fan. I mean, I've seen the highs and lows and the inconsistencies and things like that. I hope that he proves me wrong. I hope that he becomes a little bit more consistent. I hope that the terrible performances even become average, because with average and elite instead of like terrible and elite as his two kind of, performance metrics, then I think that things will be better. So yeah, Nkosi obviously was probably unlikely to take snaps in this game anyway. So you're not really losing too much, but just from a depth standpoint, you'd like to have a couple more bodies in that room or available to you on the field than not. So it does thin out the depth a little bit at quarterback, but nothing that Miami shouldn't be able to overcome.
We've got Cam Underwood on the line from State of the U, graciously helping us out with our Miami-LSU coverage today as he prepares to go to the game in not too long a time. Of course, we're all excited football's back. So regardless of who you root for, even if you're anticipating a 3 or 4 win season, you've got to be excited about watching football on the field. We just experienced a really good weekend, some exciting games last night, some potential upsets with the likes of Penn State that didn't necessarily come to fruition, but really exciting games, big games. Auburn wins a big game. We saw the deal with Notre Dame, Michigan last night. So you have now arrived there. You've obviously are constantly on the pulse of Miami football fandom, yours personally, and then, of course, everyone else in the nation there. So there's always excitement, game one, and then on top of that, big opponent. On top of that, a good season last year that was a building block from the previous season with a capable coach and a team in place that's better than any team we've seen at Miami in 10 or 11 years, or no, maybe longer than that, 2003, 2004. Compare the energy, the excitement that you see from the fan base right now, what you've seen in your experiences there for the last couple of days versus other season openers, and based on all the factors I just named.
Yeah, I think that everybody is very excited for this season, for this game. Obviously, starting 10-0 and then having the season end with 3 losses is not the interaction or, the kind of formation of wins and losses you would like. But, there was a lot to like last year. Obviously, 10 wins for the first time in a long time, obviously having gotten off the schneid by beating Florida State and whatnot. Yeah, so, I think people are excited. I mean, Miami fans have traveled pretty well. We had a State of the U happy hour event at a restaurant here in Grapevine, Texas, which is a northwest suburb of Dallas. Yesterday, I had probably 125 RSVPs on Facebook, and I think we had like 340 or 350 people show up. And it was great, so had a good time. That's why my voice is kind of gravelly, because I was shouting over the music and all the people trying to talk to everybody there. So I know, my voice is kind of even lower than normal today. A little hurts, it hurts a little bit, but yeah. So, all the people that I saw, out at that event, I know that there was an event that some other people put on at Top Golf in Fort Worth on Friday night. That was pretty packed. I saw there was, all Canes and Caneswear and other alumni chapters. They had things, last night they had a couple events at like a nightclub and whatnot, and that was pretty packed. Pecan Lodge is like a legendary barbecue restaurant in Deep Ellum, which is a downtown-ish neighborhood. It's kind of like the Wynwood of Dallas, if you will, for those who know Miami. The Brooklyn, if you will, of Dallas, kind of thing like that. The first 20 people in line for today, right now, at 11 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock Central is when Pecan Lodge opens. And, barbecue joints, they go from open until they're sold out. The first 20 people in line were Miami Hurricanes fans. Send me a picture. So, like, people are here. People are, making the trek. There's a lot of Canes fans from Texas. I mean, a couple of my friends or people that I've just met who are now my friends, they drove up from Houston, College Station, Austin, and whatnot. So there's plenty of people around. I know I have a couple other friends who are flying in this morning. I know, there's a lot of people who are here. Everybody's excited. Everybody wants to go and see the spectacle, obviously. Going to AT&T Stadium, you get to see the 60-yard by 7-story tall scoreboard in there. And, it's a premium location. It's, two nationally recognized brands. Obviously, you know, the University of Miami, the U, like worldwide brand, you know, LSU also, you know, an elite brand in college sports and things like that. And, you know, programs of legacy meeting each other. And, you know, yeah, I mean, the teams actually do mirror each other in a lot of ways. You know, both teams' defenses are probably better than their offenses. You know, maybe some quarterback questions on both sides, elite athletes at the skill positions on both sides, you know, NFL talent up and down both rosters, you know, kind of everywhere that you look. So, yeah, you know, Miami fans, you know, have been itching for a day like this, you know, ready to get back on the field. And, you know, yeah, it's easy again to wear the turnover chain and bump your chest and be braggadocious and have all that bravado through a 10-win streak when you're performing better than anybody else. You know what I mean? If you're beating somebody, then yeah, turnover chain is great. We're gonna do it. If you get a turnover in the ACC championship game like you did, you kind of put that on silently and sit down on the side because you're losing by 5 touchdowns, you know, things like that. But the end of the year obviously did not meet our estimation. But, you know, just because you have a poor result, you know, in some games doesn't mean that, you know, you're not going to be there, not going to show up. I mean, I flew out here on Thursday. Like, I think there's like 12 people in the house where I am right now. Like, I've met so many different people. Like I said, we had 350 people at our event yesterday. And that's not even including, like, you know, some big time Canes fans who are everywhere, you know, Cutler Ridge Laz and a lot of his people, you know, Steve Feinberg and a lot of his people, you know, that he goes with and whatnot. I mean, a lot of people are here already and whatnot. So there's going to be a lot. I mean, you see entire flights where, you know, people go to the front and take a picture of everybody throwing up the U on the plane. You can see it all the way back. You know, that was a plane I know from Fort Lauderdale yesterday that had, like, you know, Manny Navarro from the Miami Herald and Susan Miller-Degnan from the Miami Herald was, you know, there on that flight with a lot of Canes fans. So there's a lot of people out here. I mean, Miami fans are going to be outnumbered by LSU fans because of the proximity to Louisiana and the fact that there's just a lot of LSU alums and fans and things that live in Texas, you know, whether they're driving up from Houston, whether they live in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex or whatever. So, yeah, there's going to be plenty out here. But, man, you know, I'm really, really excited for the game. I'm really excited for everybody that I've seen. And, you know, even if Miami fans are outnumbered at the game, Miami fans are always going to be loud. I mean, like, that's why my voice is kind of raw today because, you know, I was yelling and screaming and everything yesterday. You're going to see and hear on the broadcast Miami fans. Now, obviously, we need to have something, I'm going to be in the press box, so I won't be cheering. But, you know, the Miami fans who are out there in the stands and, like, regular fans, which I hope to be for a couple of games this year so I get out from behind this computer. But you're going to hear them. Honestly, at home, like tonight at, you know, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, it's the only football game going on nationwide. Every eye is going to be there. It's a huge, you know, platform for both programs. It's you know, a chance to really progress the brand. Like, if you want to talk about national recruiting, boom. If you're trying to get a kid, you know, Miami offered a running back, a 5-star running back from California in 2020. I want to say Kendall Milton is his name. He's a beast. But if you want to talk about, hey, I might not have a chance to see Miami often, but you showcase the University of Miami on a night like tonight and this kind of a thing, that can pay dividends in so many ways. So, yeah, you know, the fervor that Miami fans have cheered with has been muted because of a 3-game losing streak. But, you know, we're kind of like just chomping at the bit, hanging out, just waiting for something great. And I think that's going to happen. I think the fans are really, really going to be a big part of the game. And I'm excited to see everybody out there and excited to see, you know, what can happen and hear the roar when, you know, Miami scores their first touchdown.
We get Cam Underwood on the line from State of the U talking Miami-LSU. He is on the scene there in Dallas, enjoying the events over the past couple of days, as you can tell. From both listening to him and then also listening to him actually talk and hear what he's talking about, but just to hear the tone of his voice as he mentions. If there's anything on the live chat that I deem usable in regards to conveying to Cam, then I will do so. So if you got a question or comment directly to Cam, then put it on the live chat. We've got tons of comments there, but you guys are basically talking amongst yourself, which is fine. That's the reason it's there, because I've got plenty of questions for Cam to take up our remaining 15 or 20 minutes. So you brought up an interesting aspect that I bring up all the time once we get to postseason play and bowl play, when people bring up the relative irrelevance of the game. Now, that's not the case because this counts in the regular season standings and toward rankings, and we're talking about teams that have aspirations beyond just their conference, so it matters big. But for as big as, let's say, Florida State Miami is, it's played in competition on television with other games that have varying degrees of relevance depending on rankings and fan bases and all of that. This is isolated. Everybody who wants to watch college football, and if you have any investment in college football, I would think, unless you have something obviously to do, you're going to be watching this game, because this is marquee stuff with future NFL players, with two brands, with two teams that this year, especially on the Miami side, are going to be factors in the national race. So yeah, I think it's bigger from that perspective that everybody's watching.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. Like I said, this is the kind of game that Miami should be playing. I mean, Mark Richt said it, Manny Diaz said it, the defensive coordinator, or sorry, head coach and defensive coordinator, respectively. Like, I mean, players have mentioned it. You want the showcase games. I mean, like, everybody in America was watching Alabama, Georgia for the national championship. You know what I mean? Like, that was a thing that happened. Like, you're there, and if you wanted to watch college football, that was the only game that you had. Early in the season, this is the same thing for the University of Miami. Yeah, I know that there's another game tomorrow night. I know that there were games yesterday. I know that there's another game next week. But Sunday night, September, what is this? This is the 2nd, 2018. If you want to watch a football game, you have to watch the University of Miami and LSU, but we're not really concerned about them. But I mean, that's the competition. So yeah, I mean, it's good, it's huge. Like, if obviously, like I said, Adidas, before they got the Parley collaboration for these alternate jerseys, or which are great, and they upcycled ocean plastic is really great for conservatism. It's great for clean oceans, a healthy earth, all those kind of things as well. Those are still being auctioned, by the way. So if you want one of the game worn jerseys, you can find that on State of the U. I think in the today's news and notes, I put a link to where you can buy one of those. So, I mean, it goes for a great cause for the University of Miami Rosenstiel School of Marine and Atmospheric Science, which is a worldwide leader in these kind of a thing. So, I mean, yeah, so you have that kind of interaction because, again, the earth is 70% water. So now we're talking about our oceans. We're talking about those kind of things. So they add that on top. You have elite players across the board. Amon Richards should be a first-round draft pick. Malik Rozier, is a decent, at least, and potentially good college quarterback if he doesn't, have terrible times in there. You have all kinds of different things. You have great players on both sides. Greedy Williams for LSU. Devin White is the linebacker whose name I couldn't remember last time I was on. Christian Fulton was a former 5-star, got suspended for 2 years for cheating a drug test, but they said, okay, he did this one kind of interaction, not this other one. So he got only 1 year. So now all of a sudden he's back and eligible. So he's a great, talent on LSU's defense. Excuse me, as there's a gnat flying in my face. I mean, there's more guys from Miami: Joe Jackson, John Garvin, Shaq Quarterman, Jaquan Johnson, Travis Homer, DJ Dallas, Lawrence Cage, or Brevin Jordan. I mean, you go on both sides of the ball for both teams. There are elite players and elite talent everywhere that you look. You have, the whole narrative thing going on with Coach O, who I guess I sound a little bit like today, down there in the Bayou, who could be on the hot seat. But if he wins the game, which I hope he doesn't, that could maybe go towards saving his job. You got Mark Richt, who, obviously coached in the SEC for years and, has played against LSU, or his teams have played against LSU. And, you got things like that. Obviously, like we spoke about before, the narrative of, well, not the narrative, but the actual result of, Miami on a 3-game losing streak. But can we find some swag again? Can we, find the turnover chain, or, get some turnovers and wear the chain, which I believe has been redesigned for this year. So you can, see across the nation what the new turnover chain looks like. I know that your team probably has some kind of thing that they're doing now because they want to be like Miami and bite our swag. And, because that's what people do. Miami are the innovators, and then you want to copy them no matter who it is. I saw there's a turnover thrown at a school. I saw a championship belt at Louisville, in honor of Muhammad Ali. I saw, we had the shoulder pads, and we had the Tulane has the Mardi Gras beads, and, all kinds of different things. But everybody wants to be like the University of Miami. But if you come and you turn into that game, you can see, okay, like the originators of swag, the University of Miami, like, what are we doing to push the envelope for what we started, all those kind of things. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a huge game. Like I said, you can spin it in so many ways. You're talking X's and O's, you're talking, coaching profiles and whatnot. Bruce Feldman for the Athletic, he rated Manny Diaz as probably the number 5 candidate for an assistant coach to maybe elevate themselves into a head coaching job, based upon the results of the season. So if Manny Diaz's defense does really well, and Dave Aranda for LSU, the highest paid defensive coordinator in America, he was like number 2 on the list, or number 1. So you have those guys. If their defense is either one does really well, now you're starting to build the case for them being a head coach somewhere else. You talk about Mark Richt, you talk about his legacy, you talk about Ed Orgeron, you talk about these players. I mean, there's so many storylines, and there's so much to see, and there's so much importance, because it's not like, when yesterday you're flipping between this game and that game, and, oh, there was a great play here, let me, hit the last channel and make sure that I see that highlight, or I get that. The only place that you're going to go tonight is ABC, nationally, across the board, across the nation and internationally, because, it does get streamed on, the ESPN app, and, the sent to the service bases around the world and things like that. The only game you're going to get is Miami-LSU, and it's a great thing. So obviously, I think that everybody is primed and ready on both sides. It's going to come down to what the execution is like. But I mean, if you're looking for, especially from the Miami perspective, because, I'm a Miami alum and I run a Miami blog site, but if you're looking at Miami taking a step and getting back to where people want Miami to be and where the players and the coaches want Miami to be, having this kind of stage is a huge thing. And then performing on this stage, hopefully, will be another big step in that right direction.
And for the scope of the broadcast of the game, I can vouch for somebody who, for the last 17 years, has worked in production operations at ESPN. Yes, if it is an ESPN selected game or an ABC primetime game, this being on a Sunday night, typically on Saturday night, it is broadcast on the ESPN networks around the world. So not just on the app and not just streaming, but on the regular networks that take the place of ESPN, whether you're in the Pacific Rim or wherever you are located. I don't know if you fit this in when you were talking about Orgeron, so I apologize if you did. I'm looking at his coaching career right here. So he was defensive line coach at Miami from 1988 to 92. That was the heart of the dynasty. That was like greatest teams of all time stuff right there.
Yeah, I mean, he was an assistant coach on 2 national champions, so 89 and 91. He was there in 88, like you said, when Miami should have won a national championship, but got screwed at Notre Dame on the Cleveland Gary play. That was definitely not a fumble, but hey, whatever, these things happen. But yeah, Ed Orgeron, he was here. When you look back at the history of Miami Hurricanes coaching staffs, there's so many great coaches who were here. Chuck Pagano, who was an offensive coordinator, he was the Colts head coach. He coached here. Greg Schiano was a defensive coordinator. Randy Shannon is a better defensive coordinator than he is a head coach, but he did a great job as a defensive coordinator taking over for Schiano. Rob Chudzinski has been in the NFL. He was a coach here. Ed Orgeron was here. The Stoops brothers, not Bob, but Mark and the other one, I forget his name.
Mike Stoops.
Yeah. Huh?
Mike?
Yeah, Mark and Mike, they were here as defensive backs coaches and things. I mean, if you look through the previous coaching staffs, like those championship teams, like all the way through the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, there were guys whose names now for being like premier defensive coordinators, and they were position coaches here or head coaches or, whatever. I mean, obviously Jimmy Johnson, Butch Davis, like all those kind of guys and all the guys who work for them. So, yeah, I mean, Ed Orgeron was here, and he worked with the defensive linemen and had a few guys drafted, first round very highly, as through his time here. So, yeah, he has a connection here, and he recruited very well when he was here, which is a thing that he's always done throughout his career. And he coached D-line to an elite level. I mean, if you just look at the production that was had at the time. So, yeah, he does have a connection to this program as well. So, and there's a couple Floridians on LSU's roster. So if you look to the players, there's that, cross connection as well. Chris Curry, I believe, is like their second or third string running back. He's a true freshman. He's from Florida. He's a cousin of somebody who played for the Miami Hurricanes. Miami stopped recruiting him in the last recruiting class, so I forget exactly what I wrote or who the family connection is, but he has a familiar connection to the Miami Hurricanes. There's a couple other guys on that team as well who were from Florida. Some of them from a little bit further north, but a couple guys from down south. John Battle IV, he's a starting safety for them, I believe. He went to Hallandale High School, which is, right in the south part of Broward County, like right there off of I-95. So, I mean, right, not 20 minutes from the stadium, if that. But yeah, he went to LSU and he's a starting player for them. So yeah, whether they're talking about Orgeron having coached at Miami or, a couple of players on LSU's team or from South Florida, there's definitely those cross connections and things. And I'm sure that it'll mean a lot for those guys, to to play against Miami, obviously, for their personal connections. And same thing for Miami, starting defensive tackle Gerald Willis III. He's a Louisiana native. He's Landon Collins' brother. Landon Collins went to Alabama, and then Gerald Willis signed with Florida like a couple of years after, each other. I think it was 1 year after. And their mother was none too pleased with either decision because she's a big LSU fan. So she's like, first, my safety son, he going to go over to Alabama. My defensive line son, he's going to go to Florida. And we're rivals with both these teams. Like, I don't know if they did it to spite mom or, I mean, obviously not. But, you kind of had to choose your own path. But, I mean, yeah, Gerald Willis, he's from New Orleans. He went to Edna Carr High School, which is, a legendary high school down there in New Orleans. So, yeah, you're going back, to the local area close to where you're from and playing your home state school that wanted you badly and you could have gone to. So, like, a lot of guys on that roster and things like that. So, I mean, there are those cross connections definitely across the board. And, not to be forgotten or anything, like, everybody remembers what happened the last time that Miami and LSU met on the field. Like, it was a Peach Bowl 2005. I was home in Michigan for Christmas. And I got to my best friend's house when we used to play video games and watch TV in the basement and whatnot. Got our Hungry Howie's pizza standard order, with the crazy bread and the pizza and everything.
Hungry Howie's?
Hungry Howie's, 100%. Like, oh, yeah. So, yeah, that's another Detroit pizza brand, along with Little Caesars and Domino's. All those actually started in the Detroit area because Detroit loves pizza, apparently. And Buddy's Pizza is the square Detroit pizza, which is iconic and legendary as well, but not nearly as widely known. So, yeah, I got there, pulled up and everything. Got inside, went over to, the house. He said hi to my friend Nick's mother and everything, and his brother who was there. And I go down to the basement and I get there as Miami is kicking the field goal on the first drive of the game in that Peach Bowl. So I'm thinking, hey, walk down the field, got that field goal. That's cool. We'll score the next time. We'll score the next time. We'll score the next time. 40 LSU points in a row later, it's 40-3, and we then got blown out. And I didn't really even see much of the game other than, like, I got there literally as that ball went through the uprights. So I remember that vividly. I painted you the whole entire picture of that night and, where I was and what I was doing. The Miami fan base remembers that. I know that LSU's fan base remembers that because, like, if you're playing a team, you're going to, hey, like, last time that we played, we blew y'all out by like 5 touchdowns. Y'all know that, right? I mean, like, that's the thing that's going to happen. So, yeah, like there's all those kind of connections and things, and we're going to hear about those, so I don't know. They'll probably mention, the Floridian players on LSU's team. They'll mention Gerald Willis being from New Orleans who went to Edna Carr. They're going to talk about Ed Orgeron having coached at Miami previously and all those kind of things. So, I mean, yeah, it's two ranked teams who are meeting on the field, but, the more that you dig and peel back the onion, like the layers and the connections are really there. So it's going to be a really interesting game tonight.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We've got Cam Underwood on the line from State of the U. He's in Dallas, obviously going to the LSU-Miami game tonight. Just consider what you've been listening to for the last half hour. Consider the knowledge, the insight, the information. So this is what I'm saying is if you want this on a regular basis for the entirety of Power 5 college football, then please like, comment, subscribe right here. If you want this specifically for Miami, and of course, I want you to subscribe still here because you're going to get the conversations with Cam, but you need to get over to State of the U to get yourself entrenched in Miami football coverage for the rest of the season, the off season, and the rest of the sports on campus there. So you mentioned LSU, Miami, some of the connections there, both personal and on the field the last time they met. Cam, what have the interactions with the fan base been? Probably not much in person, but online. Has it been generally like good-hearted trash talking or over-the-line trash talking, or what's been the interaction like?
It's funny. We Miami fans have been looking for LSU fans because they haven't really been saying anything much, on social media. I think they've gone on a couple forum sites and, message board things. They've kind of been talking amongst themselves and whatnot, but it hasn't really been too much, that kind of interaction. A buddy of mine, is a friend of mine in spite of the fact that he went to LSU. So I think he's actually out for a run. Oh, there he comes. He's coming back in now. But yeah, he was out for a run this morning. So my buddy Seth. So, he and I and like a couple of my other friends, we'll talk and we'll talk some trash and whatnot. But in general, I think that Miami fans are usually nice people in a general kind of outing sense. So, we did have a couple LSU people who came to the happy hour because, their family members or family in law, married into family, with some Miami fans. So you saw them, but I think that everybody's pretty much collegial. I don't think it's like really much animus to the conversation. So yeah, I mean, I think that everybody's really excited. I think that maybe, obviously both sides are optimistic and hopeful, but also have a little sliver of doubt because it is a new season, and we saw how things have gone in the past for both LSU fans and for Miami fans. Excuse me. So yeah, but it's been pretty much good natured and everything, but I don't think it's been as the number or the amount of talk across the way has not been the same as it would be with, I mean, like Florida fans are always coming at Miami, like they're always nipping at our heels, because they're little chihuahuas and things like that. So whatever. But they're going to do those kind of things. Like no matter, we're not even playing them until 2019, the season opener next year, because Florida is scared of Miami and they took us off the schedule because we've beaten them, and they've only beaten us one time in my natural life in 35 years. So, they want to do that and they want to say that, but they're always, chirping. Florida State fans and their people, they're always concerned about Miami. So they're always chirping. LSU, not the same kind of volume of contact or discussion and everything. So, I mean, they're Southern people, and, they talk with their draws, and they're nice people and all those kind of things. So, I mean, they're nice and, good Southern hospitality, and, Miami people, even for our braggadocious nature and, hashtag let's be jerks and things like that. Like in person, like we actually, are pretty decent people. So, there's been a lot of that kind of thing where, we've been gracious and, just meeting all these people. But yeah, the volume of trash talk has not been what it would be with many other fan bases. And I'm fine with that because, both fan bases, Miami and LSU, are really content to let the teams do the talking on the field and then kind of reacting to that. But I mean, I think that both sides are confident on some level based upon, their frame of reference. But, I'm confident about Miami from an objective standpoint as well. I think that, or I hope that Miami, the play tonight validates what I've seen and what I believe the situation to be.
So you made the connection. You took the conversation where I was going to take the next question and spin it ahead 1 year and make the collegial, good-natured comparison between LSU and Miami fans to the Florida game. But we will have plenty of time to talk about that, and you already answered my question. So last thing here, unless you have anything else, is that, of course, as a big college football guy, outside of Miami, you have a general knowledge of LSU football, what's been accomplished, where the program stands now, what the talent looks like, as we all do. But in regards to preparing for this game, talking to some of their beat writers, some of their people that cover the LSU beat on a regular basis and know the football team, what have you learned and gathered in recent weeks about LSU that either seems as though it's a place to exploit or a place to be concerned based on their talent, and what has arrived for you as keys to this game?
Yeah, we already did matchup of the week on the website. One of our staff writers, Matt Washington, he wrote that piece, and I'm going to bring it up right now so that I can reference what he wrote, because he always does great stuff on the matchup side. So I want to quote him. In having talked to across the aisle to some people from LSU, and where did it go? What? There's the game preview. There's a turnover chain. There is. Where did it go? There it is. I'm sorry.
Somebody making changes on that site that you're not aware of, Cam?
No, I mean, it's a beautiful thing when there's so much content being put up by myself and others that a piece that I thought was towards the top is actually a little bit further down, because we have so much great content on there that there's other things that have bumped it in a chronological way. So I mean, nothing major or nothing bad, definitely. But something good. So, just check out, we have so much to, go through on stateoftheu.com that even, the guy who runs stateoftheu.com, it takes me a while to find some stuff sometimes because there's so much there. Anyway, speaking to LSU people, the thing that really stands out in speaking to them is the talent level of LSU. There is great talent at every level of the team. Offensive line obviously is a little bit of a question for them. Quarterback, you have a new starting quarterback in Joe Burrow, who came over from Ohio State. So he hasn't really played in a competitive game with stakes. I mean, he's played in blowouts a couple of times, and it's like spring game at O State. But I mean, that's not like a thing that has real stakes. So I mean, there's talent there. Running back is a position of weakness relative for them. I mean, when you go from you have 20 years of legendary, NFL level running backs, easy plug and play guys. And your last two are Leonard Fournette and Darius Geis. And you fall off a cliff from a talent standpoint. Like, I don't even know. And I was talking to my buddy Seth earlier yesterday. I said, who's going to start, who you're going to plug in. And he even brought another couple of his LSU fans or alum friends over to this gathering I was at yesterday after the happy hour. And he was like, I don't even know. So there's a place where LSU, we'll see what happens, obviously, with their run game, because I don't think that I'm confident saying they don't have the talent that they once did at that position, for like the last 20 or 25 years. Wide receiver is stacked for them. Jonathan Giles comes over from Texas Tech. He was a 5-star recruit. He's an elite player. Excuse me. You have two 5-star freshmen and Terrace Marshall and Jamar Chase, a couple other guys in that wide receiver room are really good. So there's plenty of talent there. So Miami's secondary is going to have to step up to the task against, big, tall, fast, physical receivers, like Giles and Marshall and Chase. Defensively, there's talent for LSU on every level of the defense. Defensive line always has guys, big dudes up front. Linebackers, like I said, Devin White at middle linebacker is one of the best in America. In the secondary, you have John Battle, who I already mentioned. You have Greedy Williams. Andreas is his real name, but Greedy Williams at a cornerback, who's a potential first-round draft pick. Christian Fulton, who was a 5-star recruit, who's finally going to come back, and a couple other guys as well. So there's plenty of talent on every level of their defense, and they're going to try to leverage that against Miami. So overall, I think that it's really about the talent level of the team for LSU. Obviously, you do have a very good defensive coordinator in Dave Aranda, who is the highest paid defensive coordinator in college football. So leaning on him to scheme up some things to combat Miami's offense, because Miami does have elite skill position players as well. So those kind of things for on the LSU side, the talent level is a real big thing. From a matchup standpoint, that Matt wrote about. I'm doing the video chat. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know. I'm like talking. It looks like I'm talking to myself, but I'm not. I promise. Yeah, no. People just walking from coming back in from their run and everything, coming down the stairs, looking at me like, "What are you doing?" Yeah, no, video anyway. Number one matchup is Amon Richards versus Greedy Williams. Those are two first-round NFL talents, probably two first-round NFL draft picks. A wide receiver for Miami and cornerback for LSU, and they're going to be matched up pretty much all day. I would not be surprised to see Williams follow Richards all over the field. So, both guys are in that 6'2", 180, 185-pound range. So physically, they match up really well. Skill-wise, you have an elite wide receiver and an elite defensive back. That is a matchup where if ESPN and ABC were doing like a multi-cam presentation, I would love it to have that matchup on its own screen and just watch 82 for Miami against 29 for LSU. Like, that is an elite matchup. You're going to be hard pressed to find times in this college football season where you have two guys of this caliber going up against each other, play in and play out. That is worth the price of admission by itself. So that's a huge matchup, and that's going to impact the game. If Greedy Williams really locks down Amon Richards, if Amon Richards is able to shake free at some time, and if Malik Rozier can put the ball on him, because I don't think that Greedy Williams can. I don't think any defensive back is going to completely shut out Amon Richards. I don't think that's going to kind of be. But obviously, when the chance presents itself, will Miami's offensive line blocking be good enough to give Malik Rozier time, and will Malik Rozier be accurate enough to put the ball on Richards in an advantageous situation the couple of times probably that is going to happen today. So on Sunday night, again, this game. So that's going to be a thing to watch. On the other side, Jonathan Giles, like I said, he's a 5-star caliber recruit and player who's, produced well for, in 2016. And I'm reading directly from the piece here. Giles led Red Raider receivers with 1,158 receiving yards on 69 catches and 13 touchdowns. That's production. So 70 catches for almost 1,200 yards and 13 scores. So him going against Michael Jackson, who was a second-team All-ACC cornerback. He's back for his senior year, and he's looking to elevate his draft stock for Miami. One of the best cover corners in America. He's a bigger guy at cornerback, so hopefully his size will impact that matchup as well. So, you got a wide receiver and cornerback battle on both sides of the ball. So for both teams, I should say. So that's a great thing. LSU's linebackers versus Miami's running game is another matchup that Matt wrote about. Obviously, with Devin White and things like that, trying to curtail the running game, with Travis Homer and DJ Dallas and all these other guys from Miami, and obviously, you know, combating Miami's offensive line. So we'll see, you know, what the blocking scheme looks like and how they execute that for Miami. But, you know, obviously the defensive line is going to be part of that. But, you know, the linebackers really flowing from sideline to sideline and really getting their run fits into the holes against Miami's running game. That's going to be a big key. And then the last thing, you know, Matt said his Cane's eye players of the game are Joe Willis III. And we've already spoken about him, so I'm not going to wax even further poetic. But freshman tight end Brevin Jordan also, you know, he is the starting guy for Miami at tight end. You know, after Michael Irvin II got hurt, Brevin Jordan was always thought to come in and start. I thought by game 1, but maybe, you know, it could have gone to game 2 or 3. But yeah, first game freshman year, first time the offense comes out, number 9 tight end is going to be there. And he's going to be integral because, you know, Malik Rozier likes throwing to the tight ends. That's a big, major way that Miami really works the intermediate area of the passing game, throwing to the tight ends over the course of years. So, yeah, Brevin Jordan's going to need to step up really quickly. For LSU, Braden Fehoko is a defensive tackle at 6'3", 295 pounds, and he played for Texas Tech a couple of years ago with Giles in 2016 before transferring over to LSU as well. He's a big body on the inside, so he's going to really challenge Miami's interior offensive line as they're blocking. So that's going to be a big thing because if he's able to take up a double team, then that leaves room for the linebackers, namely Devin White, to, you know, be untouched and then, you know, impact plays. And then lastly, Nick Brossette is one of the running backs for LSU. He had the most yards. He's the only person who's returning to LSU's backfield who had any positive stats or to log double-digit carries, I should say, in 2017. So he had 96 carries on 5.0 yards per carry last year. But, you know, like I said, when you're going from a Jeremy Hill to Leonard Fournette to Darius Guice in the span of 6 years, and those guys are gone. Like, yeah, Brossette maybe does have talent because he was a 4-star recruit. I remember he's from a native Louisiana player also. And then you have Leonard Fournette, who's Leonard's younger brother, I believe, is still there as well. But, you know, yeah, those things, or those players, I should say. So plenty of players and plenty of positions to look at. Those are some of the guys who are really going to impact the game. But honestly, you know, you want to see, you know, what Joe Burrow does at quarterback. And we had a couple pieces evaluating his play. That's going to be huge for LSU. You want to see what Malik Rozier does. You know, had a couple pieces evaluating his play, looking at the X's and O's of things. Yeah, so there's plenty of matchups and plenty of things to do. So, I mean, it's really going to be LSU's talent level. But, you know, I think that there are some questions on who's actually going to step up in some key areas. But, you know, this is why they play the games.
So this is a reminder for everyone who joins the live chat, because this happens on a regular basis, because we get a live stream that goes out, and even though I send out notifications to let everyone know that it's coming up, most people join 5 minutes in, 10 minutes in, 30 minutes in. So as we continue to talk, Cam and I, as Cam continues to talk and deliver the insight, the numbers go up and up and up and up and up. So what you need to do, as soon as we get done with the conversation here, the video will process and post and be on my YouTube channel very soon. So you need just to rewind and catch everything that you missed in the conversation here with Cam. State of the U, go to it. It should be similar to when I type in S&T, whether it's in my phone or on my laptop. As soon as I go ST, it goes to State of the U. So it should be the same for you to get you right there for State of the U content on Miami football. That should be your source. You hear Cam on here on a regular basis. He knows what he's talking about. He knows the recruiting angle. He knows the transition to the field for Miami. He knows the depth chart. He knows the personnel breakdown. He knows the deal across the board. Then he sprinkles in some funny anecdotes and stories to give it some personality and life. So, Cam, I cannot thank you enough on game day when I've got so many people on my channel that a number of people that like LSU, but a larger Miami fan base. So from both aspects that want to get good content. So to have you on is a big thing for me that helps me out as always, but in particular because of the unique situation on Sunday, to get you on and help me out is a great thing. So appreciate it. You have a great time at the game.
Yeah, man, you know, it's always fun and everything. So, yeah, you know, I'm still getting these side eyes of people watching me talk to my computer. But, you know, hey, we were just talking about, you know, one of my friends, she says she speaks to inanimate objects, you know, at the house all the time. And I've been to their house and I've seen that. So it's a similar kind of a thing. But, yeah, you know, it's a good time. And, you know, if you guys don't believe that I know what I'm talking about. We have a contributing staff of like 22 people on State of the U, and we have a diverse set of opinions. And every week, try to do a day after recap. So we look at our commentary analysis and whatnot, and then just go back and evaluate that based upon what happened in the game. So, you know, for the majority of the year, well, even in times where, you know, things went south, you know, like we were right in saying this is what's going to happen. This is how things are going to go. Look at the X's and O's, look at the personnel, look at the game preview, look at the matchups of, you know, and the players to watch and all those kind of things. And invariably, you know, like there's foundation to what we're saying. So, you know, like I said, I appreciate being here. You know, I'm full of stories. I have so many stories that I can tell on here, and even better ones that I can't. But, you know, whether you like that or not, but, you know, if you're looking for Miami Hurricanes coverage, stateoftheu.com. We try to be comprehensive out there, you know, and very prolific. Like I said, I was looking for a piece on the website that I run, and it took me a while to get there because there's so much other great stuff that's been published in the last 2 days that have pushed another great piece even further down. So there's so much there. There's more than you could ever really consume, whether, you know, no matter what it is. So, you know, just be sure that you check with us. I really appreciate it. I know that you guys are asking questions and listening to my gravelly voice today and everything, but it's always fun. So I'll see you guys soon.
All right, folks, I'm going to be back at 6:30 tonight Eastern time to preview more on LSU Miami. If I'm able to hook up with an LSU contributor, I've got a few out there that you should be accustomed to seeing. But if I can track them down, I will provide that analysis as well from the LSU side. But we'll be here definitely at 6:30 Eastern time to talk more Miami LSU. We're going to send Cam off to the game. Have a great time, Cam. We appreciate it.
No problem. I'll see you guys later.
For everybody else, I'll stick on here for just a second to let you know to like, comment, and subscribe, of course. Get to the State of the U for the Miami coverage. And for me, of course, as was mentioned in the chat a number of times, like and comment. That helps drive the platform here at Mark Rogers TV. If you like the content, even if you don't agree with all the content, if you think it's valuable, it's good discussion, debate, analysis across the board from myself and from the contributors we have on. If you joined me yesterday, you saw that we did a big pregame before the noon kickoffs, and then a couple times we dipped into the instant analysis to knock out Michigan, Notre Dame, Auburn, Washington, and a few other games. So if you enjoy the commentary, the analysis, the discussion, debate that we do unlike other places online, then certainly I invite you to subscribe and like and comment as well, as we will see you at 6:30 Eastern time tonight. I will enjoy the weather and hopefully get an LSU guest online here very soon. So we'll see everyone later.